Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the We're Not Stumped podcast. I'm your host, Mike Bolland, and today it's headlines. Headlines for the week of September 23rd. Today's September 26th, Thursday, September 26th. And by the way, I said headlines. I'm just going to go over one headline because there's quite a bit of information in this one story that I found that I just thought, let's just do this one. I'm going to give you some of my own opinions on some of the information that's in this particular article, but doesn't mean I'm right. That's the thing. I don't mind sharing my opinions. I'd love it if you shared yours with me, but it doesn't mean I'm not stating facts. When I state my opinion, I'm not stating facts, but I'm just stating my opinion of someone who's pushing 60 now, that's been in the limb loss community since day one. So I've seen a lot of different things here or there. Maybe I haven't gone through some of the things. Some of the people haven't gone through what I've gone through either. It doesn't mean we can't be a community, share our experiences, share our theories and our own journeys. That's how we make a difference in this community, I think. So a couple show notes that I want to tell you right now. Friday, I guess that would be Friday, September 27th, I will be interviewing Danielle Robbins. She's the co-founder of Orthopause. I found her on LinkedIn. What an amazing product that she has. She's a prosthetist for humans too. But what she does, she makes them, her company does them for animals as well, for dogs and cats as well, and maybe other animals too. We're going to find out Friday. I haven't quite taped that one yet, but I can't wait. I can't wait to talk to her. She seems so cool in the correspondence we're having. So be on the lookout for that episode. And I'm also going to have Brihani Sikema. She's a bilateral AKA. She lives less than a mile from me. Interestingly enough, I met her at Lively Limbs about a month ago, and she's the coolest person ever. And she was also at Camp No Limits. She just recently, she's going through, I should say, osseointegration. And I had someone reach out on the podcast, said, hey, Mike, I'd like you to be able to do stories on osseointegration. And it just so happens I've already been trying to schedule time with Brihani and learning about osseointegration because I know very little about it. So very cool, excited, can't wait to have her on. So here is the one headline that I'm going to talk about. And this one comes courtesy of theconversation.com. And here is the headline: Paralympics showcase high-tech prosthetics, but for many people with limb loss, access to prosthesis looks quite different. Hey, if you're listening to this podcast and you have limb loss, we understand that headline. I do too, even as someone who doesn't currently wear a prosthetic, but I did back in the day. They're back there somewhere. They're props now is what I call them. But still, I get it. I know it, especially from the great people that I've interviewed on this podcast. So let me give courtesy to the people who put this article together. Alfaya Badalova, she's the assistant professor in justice studies at Royal Roads University. Brittany Posset, and I hope I'm saying that right, PhD student, Rehabilitation Sciences, University of British Columbia. Cassie Welch, PhD student, University of British Columbia. And William C. Miller, professor, Department of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy at the University of British Columbia. I'll have the link in the description, but again, this is on theconversation.com. And this is pretty interesting. Again, I'm going to read the headline: Paralympics showcase high-tech prosthetics, but for many people with limb loss, access to those prostheses looks quite different. Now, full disclosure about something about me. I don't watch the Olympics. I don't watch the regular Olympics, and I do not watch the Paralympics. And that's a choice that I make. But it's interesting because every time the Paralympics come around, people are talking to me like I know what the heck's going on. I don't follow it at all. That's my choice. Again, this is where I was telling you, man, I'm going to tell you my opinions. Doesn't mean the right, doesn't mean the wrong, but this is me. I don't watch either one of the Olympics. It's just, I used to watch them back in the day, and I might as well date myself by talking about it. I watched in '76 with Sugar Ray Leonard, which, by the way, shout out to Sugar Ray Leonard Jr. I met him. We're going to be doing some collaborations, hopefully not too long from now. But I watched Sugar Ray Leonard, Leo Randolph, which people don't remember him, but the Spinks brothers. It was great. Bruce at the time, Jenner. I mean, it was fun watching the Olympics then. In 1980, we boycotted the Russian Olympics. In '84, they boycotted our Olympics, and it just kind of put a bad taste in my mouth for the Olympics. I never got back into the Olympics after that, for whatever reason. So it's the same with the Paralympics. I just don't get into them just because I have one hand, born without one hand. And I was on the professional bowlers tour and play sports. I love sports. I just don't feel it's the be-all, end-all of being in the limb loss community. But it doesn't mean I like the Paralympics. I don't hate it. I just don't watch it. And it doesn't make me right, doesn't make me wrong. But I couldn't tell you one Paralympic athlete. Couldn't tell you one. Couldn't pick them out of a lineup, even if they had one hand like me. But let me get into the article itself. The Paralympic Games brings to the forefront the role of technology in facilitating access to professional sports for people with amputations. Now, I want to ask right there, this is why I want to kind of dissect this article. You read that. Does that mean congenital people? I don't know the answer to this. I mean, somebody can leave a comment. Is there not one congenital person with congenital limb loss, regardless, hand, leg? Is there not one in the Paralympics? Because that facilitating access to professional sports for people with amputations. I don't know if that's a true statement. It's just interesting. Images of athletes using so-called running blades make us believe in the triumph of technology and advances in the union of humans and technology. Representations of Paralympians often deliberately emphasize futuristic cyborg-like bodies presented as the ultimate body, more perfect, more efficient, and faster than organic human bodies. I think that's another interesting thing for me. I didn't grow up in a time where everything was carbon fiber. I mean, I guess I did, but not as far as the prosthetics and where I wore them. So when I see people with these, even upper limb people with these bizarre looking, they call themselves bionic prosthetics, I don't get it. I mean, it's just me. I don't get it. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. It doesn't mean I'm right. I just don't get it. And I understand that I think most of the time, and I've interviewed people that have these types of prosthetics, their thing is, I'm not ashamed of my amputation. Well, neither am I. Which is exactly why I don't wear a prosthetic, because I'm not ashamed of this either. But again, this is just a different opinion. It doesn't mean that I think people that wear these bionic looking prosthetics are wrong in the way they wear their prosthetics. You do you. What these images failed to do is raise questions about what access to prosthetic technology is for everyday people and what that looks like. Isn't that the truth? You would think by watching, because I've seen some of the highlights, you would think that everyone has access to these prosthetics. And unfortunately, people in the limb loss community don't. And I can tell you from interviewing people that suddenly had amputations thrust upon them, whether it be through medical or accident, the knowledge of what it is to go through a limb loss journey and prosthetic journey is very unknown to those not in the community. Hopefully, most people don't have to go through that journey. But one thing I think we have to do within the community is try to make this a better situation for people. And in that regard, I do think we have to get our brothers and sisters that are not in the community to understand what our journey is a little better. So I will say that. So to get back to the article, for many people with limb loss, the reality of securing far less advanced prosthesis is much more mundane. Absolutely. So here's a subheadline, the role of the prosthetic technology. This goes into a little bit of history here. After the First World War, prosthesis began to be perceived as one of the most urgent national projects for many countries, which had tremendous number of physically injured or disabled soldiers and civilians following the war. The role of prosthetic devices in the lives of people with limb loss cannot be overestimated. Assistive products are a means to participate in more areas of life, to express full citizenship, and to participate in community life and in wider society on an equal footing with others. To a certain extent, again, this is where someone like me and my brothers and sisters who don't wear prosthetics, and it doesn't matter whether they're upper or lower, that is a very strong statement to say that the role of prosthetic device in people with limb loss cannot be overestimated. I'm not against them. I'm 100% for prosthetics. but they're certainly not a means for all of us to participate in important areas of life. So let's not let's tone it down a little bit, people in the conversation.com. Tone it down. I don't know if any of you are a part of the limb loss community, but don't make assumptions like that, because there's people that are leading extremely successful lives that could care less, or dare I say, give a shit about a prosthetic. So cool your jets there a little bit, please. A prosthetic device alone cannot solve issues like chronic pain and skin problems. And by the way, and what I just said, that affect people with limb loss, but better access to a more functional prosthesis and its components improves their quality of life. Cool your jets on that. No, not for everyone. Don't paint us all. My brother's bald. I can go tell him he needs to go get a toupee. Would that be the right thing for me to do? No. He likes walking around being bald. That's fine. I like having my hair. And by the way, I'm having a bad hair day. But whatever. If you're watching YouTube, you already know it. But again, calm down. Don't make these assumptions for everyone. I'm not going to make an assumption for everyone who's bald, okay? Like my brother. I'm not going to say they all need toupees. Don't say we all need prosthetics. I don't like it. I think that's the wrong way to approach the limb loss community. But again, I set this up. I set this rant up by saying, this is my opinion. Yours can differ. And if it does, I respect that. And we can even have a conversation. Come on, we'll have a conversation. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. But from where I'm sitting, and the people that I've interviewed on the We're Not Stumped podcast, not 100% of the people in the limb loss community feel those things about a prosthesis. So keep that in mind. But I'm going to get back to the story, and I do agree with this. For individuals who rely heavily on their prosthesis for daily functioning, for example, those whose jobs require prolonged standing, walking, or other mobility-related activities, a fear of damaging their prosthesis and delays in repairs can significantly hamper their activities and participation. Agreed. I agree with everything you say there. But I could already tell that this article, while it says Paralympics and amputees and the limb loss community and prosthetics, they are ignoring upper limb. Absolutely 100%, which is fine. I mean, if this article is 100% dedicated to lower limb amputees, God bless you. I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I got an idea. Why don't you spell that out? Because again, as I have people on this podcast that have gone through their own journey, they know nothing. So people reading this, they don't know there's a difference between upper and lower and all this different stuff. So if you're just going to target the lower limb amputees, please explain it. I mean, I'm talking to PhDs here. You couldn't give a little disclaimer or some kind of thought about that part? If you're targeting just lower limb, hey, just say it. No big deal. Now here's something. Here's an acronym that I've never heard of before. UNCRPD and assistive technology. Here's what UNCRPD stands for. The United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. I'll have to look them up. I don't know anything about it. They have two articles relevant to the issues of access to assistive technology, including the prosthetic devices. Article 20, Personal Mobility, obliges states to take effective measures to ensure personal mobility with the greatest possible independence for persons with disabilities. Article 26, that's the habilitation and rehabilitation, obliges states to promote the availability, knowledge, and use of assistive devices and technologies. Despite the ratification of the UNCRPD, Canada still has a lot of work to do on delivering equitable access to assistive technology. I'll take your word for that. I don't live in Canada. A major barrier is the high cost of these devices, which include the prosthetic components, the entire prosthetic treatment process, repairs of the limb, and the eventual replacements. Spot on. In general, funding for prosthetic devices can come from federal or other programs, including workers' insurance for work-related injuries and vehicle insurance if you're in a car accident. Private health insurance plans also fits that, as well as philanthropic organizations such as the War Amps, which sounds like a fantastic organization. They're of Canada, or a combination of these sources. Often, a part of the cost is covered by the patient's personal resources, and we've talked about that on this podcast, which is tough for everyone that has to get prosthetics, or through individual fundraising campaigns like GoFundMe as an example. Another sub-headline, systemic challenges. People might have the same level of limb loss, but their funding journeys and the coverage for prosthetic devices will vary greatly. For example, someone injured at work will have better coverage than someone who lost their limb as a result of medical condition. Isn't that a shame? In addition, funders are still relying on the medical model of disability that limits access to prosthetic devices to the idea of basic function. How many times have we heard about basic function from people on this podcast? And here's what the deal is, and here's the rest of the article, which leaves a lot of room for interpretation on the part of the adjusters who do not have a deep understanding of the individual needs and their preferences. Isn't that the truth? As well, the definition, and check this out, this is where I love this article. As well, the definition may not match aspirations. In other words, if a person with limb loss is interested in exploring new activities that they have no previous experience engaging in, it's very unlikely that that type of prosthesis will fit under the definition of basic needs. And that is an issue. This is where we all need to come together. So you lose, let's say, I'll say like me. Let's say I lose a hand. And I have lost a hand, but that was at birth. This is different. But let's say there is someone, my brother, who's bald, who I won't tell, I'm not going to tell him to put on a toupee. But let's say something tragic happens to my brother, and suddenly he's like his brother, and he only has one hand. Me. What if he's not an avid golfer, but what if part of his aspiration and what was trying to get him out of the, hey, let's call it what it is, at times depression, going through limb loss. What if he decides he has a goal? I want to start playing golf when I heal up, and I'm going to need a prosthetic to do that. Well, he's never played golf in his life, as in this example. Is that a basic need? Number one, no. And number two, is he going to get supported in that endeavor? And the answer is probably no on that. And that's terrible because, again, when we think about the limb loss journey, first of all, it isn't just about sports, even though I'm giving you a sports analogy here, but it's about the mental rehabilitation as well as the physical. It's all parts, mental and physical. And if you have a goal after you lose a hand of wanting to play golf again, and you are denied access to get a prosthetic to do that, that's not a physical problem now. That is a mental problem. And that's where our community needs to come together to support change and make sure that isn't part of what's going on. End of rant. Let me get back to the article. Considering the excellence we associate with the Paralympic athletes, the basic function benchmark used to determine the eligibility for a prosthesis is problematic. It suggests that people who do not want or cannot be athletes, but want to and engage in activities including parenting, recreation, and employment, that's a big one with me, are scrutinized if they become amputees recently, and again, every time they need to replace their prosthesis or parts due to wear and tear. This article is nailing it in that respect. Subheadline, Advocacy. The War Amps, a nonprofit organization that advocates for the rights of persons with limb loss and provides financial assistance to amputees for their artificial limbs, aims to improve the standards of funding for artificial limbs. The end goal is to improve the system so that amputees are able to receive the limbs they need for independence, safety, and security. And I will add, this is Mike Bolland adding this, I will add mental health. Because again, you should be able to do aspirational things, not just what you did before. Think about the art of the possible sometimes when you have limb loss. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is get a prosthetic, even though, again, I don't wear one, but I know how important they are, and I believe in them so much. And a lot of people that go through medical or accident, they need them. And they need them for the mental part of the journey. So, man, this is right on. And getting back to the article, as long as the funders of a prosthetic device are not aligned on their approach, and as long as they rely on outdated ideas of basic functioning, people with limb loss will continue seeing the disconnect between the promises of prosthetic technology and the reality of their access to it. Perfect. Discussion of equitable access to prosthetic technology is closely connected to access to assistive technologies more broadly. States need to develop and implement contextually relevant assistive technology policies and programs. Right on. As well, it is important to develop consistent policies and standards while prioritizing the needs of the individual. According to the World Health Organization, a national strategy and plan of action to progressively improve areas of assistive technology is needed to ensure that no one is left behind, irrespective of age, gender, or functional difficulty. If I had two hands, I'm trying to clap if you're just listening to this. This is a one-handed guy trying to clap. I love that. The last paragraph. Such a strategy needs to be developed in coordination with health, education, labor, and social services, and in consultation with the users and their families, professional groups, NGOs, and the private sector. Their families, absolutely. There's a support system for everyone in the limb loss community, even as a congenital. I would say that everyone, I'm not even say even as a congenital, we needed that. I needed that. My mom and dad and my brother and sister and now my family are the biggest support group that I have. My friends and family and everyone. We all need that. And I'll tell you what, that is regardless of whether you're within the limb loss community or not. We all need that kind of connection. So having the families and the caregivers is extremely important to have this as part of the conversation. Great job by theconversation.com. You can go on theconversation.com, search, there's a search bar, look up Paralympics. I'm sure you'll stumble across this article. Everyone that wrote it is listed, so thank you for doing that. The URL is extremely long, otherwise I would say it right now. I will have it linked in the description on YouTube and all of the major platforms for the podcast. But great job. Again, I don't really watch the Paralympics, but I liked how this article really did it really did a great thing in showcasing the Paralympics as a way to let people know, hey, this isn't what everyone goes through. Because here's the deal. Many people are going to watch the Paralympics and think, oh, it must be easy to get a prosthetic. Or not, I shouldn't even say, that might be too strong of a statement, but not understand how difficult it is to get most prosthetics, certainly those prosthetics. And that's where, and we need everyone in our corner, because people of all walks of life make decisions for the limb loss community. It could be someone in the insurance field or a prosthetist, and they need to have a better understanding that this article does a great job of as to some of the challenges and really looking at the Paralympics and honoring them, again, even though I don't really watch the Paralympics, but honoring the Paralympic athletes, but making sure people understand that isn't the case for everyone. So thank you to all who put that together. All right. That's it for headlines. And I'm using headlines plural. I shouldn't. I only did one headline. But I talked a little bit more than I usually do, and I don't mind doing it. As you can tell, I like talking every once in a while. Do me a favor. Like and subscribe and share this podcast. Just do me a favor. You can't give me a hand? Come on. You got to give me a hand. But do me a favor, because getting these out is just going to help others listen to the podcast, and certainly the stories that I share. Having Danielle Robbins on having the Resilient on a couple weeks ago, having a New Life Prosthetics on. These stories help everyone within the limb loss community, within the amputee community, however you want to say it. So please like, share, subscribe, talk about it to your neighbors when you're drinking a beer. I don't care what you're doing. And on top of everything else, everyone, which hand should I point with? This is for the YouTube people. Okay, I'm looking at the microphone now. This is for the podcast people. But for you people, or everybody, I guess, have a great week.